The suffocating weight of a catastrophic secret is beginning to crush Steffy Forrester Finnegan from the inside out, threatening to shatter the fragile peace she has so desperately tried to rebuild. Ever since that fateful, intoxicated night in the Forrester Creations executive office, Steffy has been living on borrowed time. The memory of crossing the ultimate line with Carter Walton, a night fueled by the shared trauma of her disastrous Monaco trip and his devastating heartbreak over Daphne Rose Walton's sudden departure, haunts her every waking moment. Steffi had convinced herself that her marriage to John Finn Finnegan was over the second she discovered he had hidden Sheila Carter's presence on his commercial flight. She had thrown her wedding ring at him on the French Riviera, fled back to Los Angeles, and drowned her sorrows in a bottle. In that dark, vulnerable space, she and Carter found a dangerous solace in each other's arms. But now, the harsh light of reality has returned, and the consequences of their passionate indiscretion are looming like a dark storm cloud over the Forrester empire. Finn has returned to the Cliff House, showering Steffi with desperate apologies and unwavering devotion. He has repeatedly praised her honesty, her purity, and her steadfast commitment to their family, completely oblivious to the fact that his wife has committed the ultimate betrayal. Every time Finn looks into her eyes with that unconditional love, a fresh wave of agonizing guilt washes over Steffi. She had come dangerously close to confessing the sordid truth to him, the words of her infidelity trembling on the edge of her lips, only to be interrupted by a sudden, urgent phone call at the very last second. That narrow escape did nothing to alleviate her torment. It only amplified the crushing pressure in her chest. Steffi is a woman who prides herself on her strength and her fierce loyalty, yet she is currently harboring a secret so toxic that it could permanently destroy multiple families. The psychological toll is becoming unbearable, and her ability to maintain this facade is rapidly deteriorating. Carter Walton is equally trapped in this agonizing web of deception, driven by a desperate, frantic need to protect the woman he truly loves. When Daphne returned from Paris, having abandoned her plans to leave him following her severe infertility and premature menopause diagnosis, Carter was overwhelmed with a profound sense of relief. Daphne was ready to fight for their marriage, ready to explore alternative paths to parenthood, and ready to reclaim their future together. But Carter's joy is heavily tainted by the agonizing knowledge of what he did with Steffi. He never expected Daphne to walk back through his door so quickly, and he certainly never anticipated the overwhelming guilt that would accompany her return. Carter is now resolute in his determination to bury his night with Steffi forever. He knows that Daphne's mental health is incredibly fragile right now, and the revelation that her husband slept with one of her closest friends would undoubtedly send her spiraling into an irreversible depression. Carter is fighting a desperate battle to keep the secret hidden, but Steffi's unraveling composure is making that task increasingly impossible. The simmering tension between Steffi and Carter finally boils over into a panicked, hushed argument in a secluded corner of Forrester Creations. The air between them crackles with unspoken fears and desperate pleas as they debate how to handle the suffocating guilt that is slowly destroying them both. Steffi's voice trembles as she expresses her inability to keep looking Finn in the eye, while Carter vehemently insists that they must take this secret to their graves for the sake of everyone involved. They are so consumed by their intense, frantic confrontation that they fail to notice the approaching footsteps echoing down the hallway. Suddenly, the door swings open, and Ridge Forrester steps into the room, his sharp, paternal instincts instantly flaring as he takes in the sight of his daughter and his chief operating officer locked in a heated, suspicious dispute. Ridge immediately demands to know what is going on, his authoritative voice cutting through the thick tension in the room. He had been standing outside the door for a brief moment, listening to the muffled sounds of their argument, but the ambient noise of the bustling fashion house had prevented him from deciphering the exact details of their conversation. Nevertheless, Ridge is no fool. He can clearly see the panic etched across Steffy's face and the defensive posture Carter has assumed. The situation is incredibly precarious, and the secret of their drunken affair is teetering dangerously close to the edge of exposure. If Ridge were to discover that his trusted friend and colleague had slept with his daughter while she was in a vulnerable, intoxicated state, the fallout would be apocalyptic. Ridge has already declared an all-out corporate war on the Spencer family, and his temper is currently running on a remarkably short fuse. In a brilliant, albeit desperate, display of quick thinking, Carter and Steffy scramble to construct a plausible alibi for their intense confrontation. They could easily blame their argument on the mounting pressures of the business, perhaps citing the chaotic aftermath of Hope, Logan Spencer's shocking defection to Logan Creations, or the frantic preparations for Eric Forrester's haute couture line. However, Carter opts for a much more personal and manipulative half-truth. He steps forward, looking Ridge squarely in the eye, and claims that he was aggressively urging Steffy to fix her fractured marriage with Finn. Carter uses his own recent emotional roller coaster as a shield, explaining that he was using his miraculous reconciliation, with Daphne as a prime example of why Steffy should not give up on Finn despite the lingering trauma caused by Sheila Carter. Carter's fabricated explanation is a masterstroke of emotional manipulation, perfectly designed to placate Ridge's protective instincts. By framing the argument as a passionate plea for marital salvation, Carter not only explains the intensity of their conversation, but also positions himself as a caring, supportive friend. Ridge, who desperately wants to see his daughter happy and secure, is likely to accept this explanation, even if he sternly orders Carter to back off and let Steffy handle her own personal life. The irony of the situation is incredibly thick and almost suffocating. Just moments before, Ridge had been casually discussing Daphne and Carter's marital struggles, comparing the fragility of relationships to a sin, completely and utterly oblivious to the massive, marriage-destroying sin that is currently standing right in front of him. The secret remains hidden for now, but the close call leaves both Steffy and Carter visibly shaken, acutely aware that they are dancing on the edge of a very steep, very dangerous precipice. Meanwhile, on the other side of Los Angeles, a different kind of destructive spiral is taking place. Will Spencer, the golden heir to the Spencer publishing empire, is completely drowning in a sea of depression, isolation, and alcohol. His once promising relationship with Electra Forrester has imploded in the most spectacular and violent fashion imaginable. The memories of that disastrous night at the Bikini Bar play on a continuous, agonizing loop in his mind. He remembers the bitter insults exchanged with R.J. Forrester, the blinding flash of rage, and the sickening thud as his fist accidentally connected with Eric Forrester's face. He remembers the absolute horror and disgust in Electra's eyes as she permanently severed their ties, throwing her necklace at him and aligning herself completely with RJ and the Forrester family. Will had tried desperately to win her back, but his pleas fell on deaf ears. He has been banished from the Forrester estate, deemed a dangerous, unhinged threat by Ridge, and left to grapple with the crushing consequences of his actions. Unable to cope with the overwhelming pain of his shattered heart, Will seeks refuge in the neon-lit, chaotic atmosphere of the Bikini Bar. He sits alone in a dark booth, aggressively throwing back shot after shot of liquor, desperately hoping the alcohol will numb the agonizing sting of Electra's rejection. He is a broken, vulnerable man, completely unmoored and spiraling rapidly out of control. But Will is not as alone as he thinks. Watching him from the shadows with a calculated, predatory gleam in her eye is Melissa Dillon. Dillon's carefully constructed good girl facade has been slowly cracking over the past few weeks, revealing a highly ambitious, strategic woman who is more than willing to capitalize on the misfortunes of others to secure her own status. Dylan has been patiently waiting in the wings, enduring Elektra's toxic, possessive demands and the humiliating threats to her job at Forrester Creations. She knows that Elektra has officially closed the door on Will, and she views this as her golden opportunity to swoop in and claim the Spencer heir for herself. Dylan approaches the heavily intoxicated Will, her voice dripping with artificial sympathy and calculated warmth. She offers him a shoulder to cry on, listening intently as he slurs his way through his heartbreak and his fury at the Forrester family. Dylan expertly manipulates the situation, feeding his ego and validating his anger, slowly but surely positioning herself as the only person in Los Angeles who truly understands him. As the night wears on and Will becomes increasingly inebriated, Dylan gently guides him out of the loud, crowded bar and pours him into a car, directing the driver to the secluded Spencer Beach House. The journey back to the beach house is a blur of drunken confessions and lingering touches. Will is desperate for comfort, desperate for anything that will make him forget the agonizing pain of losing Elektra. When they arrive at the beach house, the ocean breeze is cool and salty, but the atmosphere between Will and Dylan is thick with a heavy, intoxicating heat. In his inebriated state, Will stumbles toward the outdoor shower, seeking the shocking clarity of the cold water to sober him up. Dylan follows him, her intentions clear and her resolve unwavering. As the water cascades over Will, soaking his clothes and plastering his hair to his forehead, Dylan steps into the spray with him. The contrast of the freezing water and the burning heat of their bodies creates a sensory explosion. Dylan reaches up, her hands tangling in his wet hair, and pulls his face down to hers. The kiss is sudden, desperate, and incredibly steamy. It is a collision of grief, vulnerability, and raw, unbridled ambition. Will hesitates for a fraction of a second, the ghost of Elektra Forrester still lingering in the back of his mind. But the alcohol and the overwhelming need for physical connection quickly override his better judgment. He pulls Dylan closer, his hands roaming over her soaked clothes, surrendering completely to the passionate encounter. The outdoor shower scene is a visual masterpiece of soap opera drama water droplets glistening on their skin, the sound of the crashing waves, masking their heavy breathing, and the undeniable chemistry that threatens to rewrite the entire romantic landscape of the younger generation. It will not be long before they move inside, shedding their wet clothes and crossing the ultimate physical line, cementing a rebound romance that will send shockwaves through their respective families. The potential consequences of this steamy, drunken night of passion are absolutely staggering. If Will and Dylan do indeed hit the sheets, as all the signs strongly suggest, the possibility of an unexpected pregnancy looms large over the narrative. A pregnancy would permanently bind the Spencer heir to Melissa Dylan, transforming a reckless one-night stand into a massive, life-altering scandal. It would completely obliterate any lingering hopes Will might have had of reconciling with Elektra, and it would solidify Dylan's position within the wealthy, powerful Spencer family. For a woman who has been accused of being a gold digger, carrying a Spencer baby would be the ultimate victory, a permanent ticket into the upper echelons of Los Angeles high society. However, Dylan's calculated ascent will not go unchallenged. Katie Logan Spencer, Will's fiercely protective and highly intuitive mother, has already launched a massive investigation into Dylan's dark past. Katie's maternal radar has been screaming ever since she witnessed Dylan's manipulative behavior, and she is absolutely horrified by the prospect of her vulnerable son falling into the clutches of a woman she deems dangerous and opportunistic. When Katie inevitably discovers that Will has escalated his physical relationship with Dylan, her maternal fury will be unleashed in a spectacular fashion. Katie has already lost her sisterhood with Brooke over corporate betrayals. She will not hesitate to wage an all-out, scorched earth war to protect her son from a woman she believes is using him for his fortune and his name. But Katie is about to meet her match, The landscape of this bitter feud is about to shift drastically with the impending arrival of Darcy Dillon, Melissa's formidable and fiercely protective mother. Portrayed by the legendary Kelly Sullivan, Darcy is set to make a spectacular debut in Los Angeles, arriving right in the middle of the explosive Spencer and Forrester corporate war. Darcy is a woman who knows how to survive, and she will immediately recognize the threats surrounding her daughter. If Katie Logan thinks she can easily intimidate or bulldoze Melissa, she is sorely mistaken. Darcy and Dillon are cut from the same resilient, cunning cloth, and Darcy will not stand idle by while the wealthy elite of Los Angeles attempt to destroy her child. The stage is perfectly set for a massive, epic showdown between two fiercely protective mothers. Katie Logan, armed with the power and wealth of the Spencer Empire, will clash violently with Darcy Dillon, a woman who possesses a sharp intellect and a ruthless determination to secure her daughter's future. If Dillon does indeed turn up pregnant following her steamy shower encounter with Will, Darcy will undoubtedly step in to coach her daughter, guiding her through the treacherous waters of high society and ensuring that the Spencer family takes full responsibility. The impending arrival of Darcy Dillon promises to inject a thrilling new dynamic into the show, creating a volatile, unpredictable atmosphere where every secret, every lie, and every passionate indiscretion carries massive, life-altering consequences. The drama in Los Angeles has never been hotter, and the fallout from these explosive encounters will undoubtedly change the lives of these iconic characters forever.